The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Woldu. We got a great show for you, jam-packed. And of course, a certain 97 won't necessarily make an appearance, but his name will be shouted, much like the Oiler fans in celebration over the weekend of his performance. First of all, speaking of Oiler fans, Newcap Sports reporter and anchor as well. Well, you're from the Edmonton area. It's only fair to assume. Am I right in that concept, Nahreman, Issa?
That's true. I do bleed orange and blue. I don't care who knows. I'm just kidding. No, I got to see McDavid score his 2 goals in Calgary. His first Hockey Night in Canada appearance.
Yeah, and did pretty well for himself for an 18-year-old amongst all the pressure.
Yeah.
Speaking of a guy who's familiar with pressure, of course, with the Lakeland Rustlers, or formerly with the Lakeland Rustlers curling team as a coach, as well as a guy who's curled himself and is a city councillor, which can be a pressure job from time to time. Speaking to Chris McQuid, how's it going, man?
Good, you?
Excellent. Glad to have you back. It's been a while since you've been here.
It has been, yeah.
Long resume, hey?
You bet.
Just
yeah.
this.
Yeah, exactly. Philanthropist, whatever you want to throw in there. Right?
Philanthropist, yeah.
Just throw in whatever title it is. Well, you know what? Let's talk about titles. It's something that neither of these teams have had since the early 80s or mid 80s. Early 90s. I'm talking about the Toronto Blue Jays and the Kansas City Royals. 2-0 was the series lead for Kansas City. They moved to Rogers Center, which is a home run friendly park. The Jays finally got an order, putting up an 11 spot in Game 3. Now they have 4-5 at home. Is this team capable of actually coming back in this series in the 2-3-2 split? Chris?
Yeah, you know, it's a lot like their first series, shades of that again. They struggled a bit with the bats and all of a sudden got hot, and then they were unstoppable. So feels a lot like that again. When you build a team around power, you're going to go through those dry spells, so it's always a little bit risky. They got Dickey on the mound this afternoon here, so see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, if they continue to get hot like they did last series, I don't see why they couldn't keep rolling.
Well, that's exactly it. You saw that when you're down 2-0 in a best of 5 is a lot scarier than being down 2-0 in a best of 7. They came back for that, but of course the only reason why they came back too is the bats came alive. That's the only way. Like, you got to have strong pitching, strong defense, but we already know that with the guys on the mound and the guys out in, like Pilar, all that sort of stuff. But if you got guys like Bautista and Donaldson not hitting home runs or not getting those timely hits, it's going to be a lot of hard work.
In
they
a 2-3-2
will come
format.
back.
In a 2-3-2 format, this doesn't help out those teams that are in the middle of the ground, well, depending what happens, right? If Kansas City lost one of the games at home, it'd be a different story because you go 3 straight in Toronto, it's not necessarily a friendly place to be. But with this format, I think this favors Kansas City. Would you agree with that, or do you think the Jays still have a chance?
Well, it's kind of hard because we did not see the Jays win in Kansas City, right? So for now, we're just like, are they only going to work it out?
But they were different, right? Their series against Texas, you were in a familiar stadium with Toronto, with the air, with everything that happens. You're going to hit the long ball and hit it long.
Yeah.
In Kansas City at Kauffman Stadium, it's not like that. So those routine home runs will be in the gap, or will be by the warning track.
I think what people have to understand.
And there's a lot of doubles and singles, which relates to how Kansas City plays.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of people have to understand, though, is we're talking about Kansas City Royals here. They are a good team. They are just as good, if not slightly better, than maybe the Toronto Blue Jays. Like, we are not talking about like Jays are up here and they were a wild card, the Royals, or something like that, right? So it's going to be tough. These are two good teams that both match up very well. I don't expect to see a sweep, and we're not going to see a sweep. But I even said before the postseason even started, it was like, if those two teams meet up, it is going 7 games. It's going to go the distance, and we'll see what happens.
All right, how about this? You say that the Royals are a very good team, the Jays are a very good team. Would you categorize the Mets as a very good team, or perhaps the best in the postseason, the way they've played against the Los Angeles Dodgers, the way they've played so far against the Cubs? You look at that pitching staff, especially with DeGrom and Syndergaard, and you throw in a guy like Daniel Murphy, who's emerged in this postseason, Curtis Granderson, who's also had veteran experience, who's been to a World Series before, helping this young ball club. Are the Mets probably the most dangerous team?
You could say they're the real deal. They're getting all the timely support that you need, and of course Daniel Murphy. Like, the one stat that really sticks out to me is, getting home runs off some of the best aces in the league when you go against like Kershaw,
that's
Greinke,
clutch.
All that stuff. Yeah, Arrieta, you got Lester. So that's just the big difference is he's homered, 5 straight 4 straight. Like he is, like you can't just say it's one guy on the team, but the Mets are the real deal. Like I can see them coming out. It's not just because they have a 2-0 lead, but you know, if they come out, they have a really good shot of taking home the World Series. But they're getting everything. They're getting the hits, but they're also getting those defensive plays. You know, they're also getting the pitching that they're getting. That's just the thing, is all three elements are clicking for them right now. And you just can't say like they're going up against a weak team. Like the Cubs are a good team, but to be able to see Arrieta kind of, oh look, he looks human again.
Chris?
Yeah, definitely. They just feel like one of those teams that heats up at the right time and makes a run through the playoffs. They've always had great pitching all year. Early in the year, they struggled with offense. They were losing a lot of 2-1 games, that kind of thing. Made a lot of good deadline deals. Got Cespedes. He's been unreal for them. So now they have that power element. Murphy's been clutch. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd categorize them as the team to beat, but they're one of those teams that just seems to be winning at the right time. So I definitely wouldn't bet against them. That's for sure.
Okay, well, what about this? I know you can't overemphasize great starts, but would you believe the Montreal Canadiens, throughout their history, the 24 Stanley Cups, the teams that they've had, the 60-point win teams, or 60 win teams, that is, and yet this is the best franchise, I guess, start to a year. They went 4-0, which is a record. Now they're 6-0. Is the sky the limit for the Canadiens? What's the reason for that, Chris?
Yeah, certainly they used to always rely a little bit more on price than on their defense, but this year they're controlling the puck a lot more than they ever have. They're out-shooting their opponents big time, so I think they're just a much better, well-rounded team now. They seem like a complete team. Of course, it's just the start. It's early, but the way they're playing right now, they look like a real contender for sure.
Well, that's the thing, is like 6 games in, it's such a small sample to see, but to see the way they've stymied the defense, or like, you know, the offense on other teams, to see the way that they've shut the door. You mentioned like six games, they've only allowed 7 goals. You can't all, because in the past we could say it was all Carey Price, but now we can actually say it's not just Carey Price. It's everything that you said, like all the lines are clicking. They are getting the timely scoring. They are getting their defense stepping up. And they are getting, of course, if Carey Price is not on his game, it's a completely different story. But the thing is, though, you also look at their schedule. It was not an easy schedule for them. So this is why some people can't really just brush it off, because, yeah, you went up against the Sens and the Leafs, and, you know, you saw a couple of other people, but you played a lot of divisional games. You were up against Boston as well. Like, a lot of divisional games. Those ones are tough, man, because even if the team is not the greatest, it takes a lot out of you physically, mentally, all that sort of stuff. You went up against Pittsburgh. Like, they didn't have
there are no slouches on the team, and I think that's
they didn't have an easy schedule.
The big thing to be impressed with it.
To go up 6-0 is pretty impressive right now.
All right, guys, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, we're going to talk about Connor McDavid, and it looks like he's already in full bloom. We'll tell you why coming up.